All right, guys, welcome back to Tommy Points, your premier Celtics show, brought to you by Chasing Rings, the podcast. We got Kyle, Luke, Joe, myself, Victor. Guys, I mean, what a weird week. We got three not so pretty games. We got a nice win against the Raptors, disgusting loss against the Jazz, and a really bad loss against the Pistons last night. Guys, two things that kind of stood out to me immediately. The whole Twin Towers thing, right? So we run the Twin Towers, it looks good. We don't run the Twin Towers, we don't look good. In most cases throughout the season. We play the Utah Jazz, who has, I believe, a two-time Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert. He's a clear-cut 100% center. He's, 7 feet, if not bigger. He's built like a horse. He's just a big, big guy. And we don't go Twin Towers there. So that's the one thing that drove me crazy so far this week. The other thing was last night, when we're playing a team that we're clearly better than. I'm sorry, they don't have one player that matches Tatum. They don't have one player that matches Jaylen Brown. But for some reason, they were all better than our guys last night. And I blame that on Brad. There was a stretch last night, and we can talk about it more in depth. And I texted you guys the same thing. With 2 minutes left in the first half, we're down by 10. Brad calls a timeout. Actually, I think it was a TV timeout. I don't even want to give him the credit. And we come out of that huddle, and all of a sudden we see one guy closing out on shots and 4 guys crashing the rebounds. And next thing you know, we're creating transition buckets. Everybody's sprinting the floor. We did a 2-for-1 with 31 seconds left. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but Marcus Smart was calling it. And they asked him, Marcus, what would you do here? He goes, man, if they're going to give me the 2-for-1, I'm going to take it. And they took it, and they went from down 10 with 2 minutes left to down 2 at halftime. That's a phenomenal 2-minute stretch by the Celtics. They executed on every aspect of the game. And I keep asking myself, and we talk about it all the time, where is this pace for at least 40 minutes a game, 38 minutes a game? We're playing 12 guys. We can't say they're tired. We can't say that they can't do it. Everyone's under 28 years old except for Kemba. I mean, Jesus Christ, why aren't we pushing this pace? So, guys, that's my little spiel of the two things that stuck out the most to me. Luke, 1 and 2 over these 3 games. I think you called 1 and 2, except we, winning the Jazz game.
Yeah.
What's sticking out to you the most right now?
I mean, just inconsistency with lineups, inconsistency with shooting, inconsistency with play calling. Tatum, in my mind, had a great game last night, and yet he shot 40% from the field. And part of that is definitely bad shots. Part of that is forcing the issue because we have no other fucking offense sometimes. And other times it's just not getting him open, not getting him to spots on the floor. You barely saw him in the paint last night, posting up, I should say. He had 13 free throw attempts, which is unbelievable. And he hit 12 of them. That's the type of game I want to see. He had 7 assists, but we didn't move the ball. We see the difference between the Raptors game where we're throwing it all over the court. And Ogilvy and Pritchard are knocking down open threes compared to last night where you have no one shooting except Tatum and Brown. It doesn't make sense to me. How we can switch so quickly into a different game plan and forget everything successful we did the night before.
So it's funny, and I want to bring Luke and Kyle into this one. So we've been really hard on Kemba in the fact, not that his individual performance has been up and down. He's had some good games and some good shots. He's had some bad games and bad shooting nights. And those are going to happen to the best players in the NBA. We've seen Steph Curry go 1 for 10 before. It's going to happen. But our biggest concern about Kemba is the offense going stale, the movement, the half-court offense, it's just ISO, or quick pick and rolls, pick and pops. Guys, last night Kemba didn't play. We had that insane pace, basically an 8-0 run to end the second half. But then in a tight game, we go back to this ISO ball. I mean, why? Can anyone justify why Brad does that? And you could even watch, and Kyle, I know you didn't tune in last night, and that's okay. But at the end of the game, actually, Kyle, you caught the end of the game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the game, guys, did you notice that Tatum was forcing 20 dribbles before taking a shot? Then they get a defensive stop. The next possession, exactly. I like that background, Kyle. Then the next possession, he goes, no, give it to Jaylen. And he stepped back and he stayed out of the way because he was exhausted. I'm sorry. Even when LeBron goes ISO, It is 1 to 2 dribbles and a fadeaway. It is not dribble, force a shot, and whatever. Guys, what is going on? And whoever wants to step in. I mean, Brad Stevens, is that the question mark?
So I think Brad Stevens said it last night. He said there's a lot of unknown because we're inconsistent. I think if we're more consistent as a team, there would be a lot more known. I mean, that inconsistency also comes from Brad too.
Yeah.
But Luke, it's like you said, like it's so much different from the Raptors game to the Pistons game. How like during the Raptors game, it was like the Jays were like facilitators. They were like they get everyone more involved. And like the biggest difference to me with Kemba in those two games is when the Jays get like they had I think like 19 assists between the two of them the other night. When they have like high assist volume, Kemba plays, but it seems like Kemba plays like better. His shooting is better versus like the last night when it was lower. It wasn't nearly as good. The thing I noticed about Raptors win is Grant Williams. So I think he's just slowly getting better still. And from the Pistons loss, Luke, you said like Semi's still like he didn't show as good as production as he did the other night, but I mean I still think he's getting better. He could be a decent starter. It seems like.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. Like, first off, Grant against the Raptors. Yeah, Grant had a great game, in my opinion. And I think he's played better over the last few games, and he's getting more opportunity too. But then last night, he shows up. I think he plays 20 minutes or so, maybe 16. Let's see how many minutes he played.
Dude, Grant, 25.
24 minutes, and he didn't take a shot. He didn't
4
take
rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. But
didn't take one. But that's the thing is like Grant is they're molding Grant into this outside shooter, like stick in the corner. Like we just had that happen in Toronto. Why did he not take a shot?
Well, Luke, the exact answer is what happened last night. We went to ISO ball. If the ball doesn't move, it's never going to find Grant. Because what happens is, and it's working out great for Semi and Grant, is we move the ball, drive to the lane, they double down, kick to the corner. And at the beginning of the season, it wasn't working because Semi and Grant couldn't find the ocean off a boat. But now it's working. So why change the philosophy? I'm sorry, guys. I have been adamant about this. When Doc Rivers decided to leave Boston, I said I want Brad Stevens or Shaka Smart. They have taken mid-major teams, put them, deep into the March Madness. They are ready for the NBA. They are good with youth, good with young talent. But guess what Brad Stevens is not good with? Real talent, because he does not know how to coach these guys, and it's killing me. So I want to ask you guys something directly about last night's game. Was it 3 nights ago? Edwards had 20 points or something like that. Whatever the stats were, I don't care. But he had a phenomenal game. He brings energy, speed, and pace. Last night we had Kemba out. Edwards has started a game. Waters has started a game. Jeff Teague has started a game. All while Pritchard stayed on the bench. Why not keep Pritchard on the bench and start Edwards and keep that pace and energy going? And it's not a slight at Pritchard by any means, but keep Pritchard in the role.
Yeah.
Because Edwards has had an inconsistent role, and that's okay because he's going to get inconsistent minutes just like he should. But you keep Pritchard in his role. Pritchard had his worst game of the season last night by far. I mean, he was lost on the court. He couldn't get momentum. He couldn't dribble the basketball. Whatever it was, he looked uncomfortable, whatever it was. So, guys, I want to ask you right now, who is the biggest blame for this record at 13-12?
It's this guy right here.
Danny Ainge.
This picture right here, this is how I am watching the Celtics this year. I just can't believe it. Joe mentioned inconsistency, or this is what Brad is telling us. Brad is just giving us like this bullshit. Like he just spews bullshit, basically. It's like he just tells you what you want to hear. He just gives like a blank statement or like a blanket statement. Dude,
and Luke, you always bring up the sorry, Kyle, but Luke, you always bring up the bench is a problem. Last night was a clear example. It seems like we can compete with them, and then we fall back behind, and then we get some momentum, and then they kill it right away. At least last night.
It was two people versus 10 people. It was Tatum and Brown versus the entire Pistons team.
They're still doing ISO ball. I don't understand how Brad hasn't learned anything from the bubble and from last year, and how ISO ball doesn't work. And it's even getting worse. And we mentioned how we thought it was Kemba, and Kemba is part of the problem. But, I mean, like we said, Kemba was out last night, and Luke and I were talking about it before we started even recording, where it's like it was still ISO ball. And it's like, what? I don't understand. It's Jason and Jalen, and then everyone else is standing around. And it's like we should be driving and then kicking out, but like I don't know. I just don't know. Like, also, a question for you guys: what did Aaron Naismith do to Brad Stevens? Does anybody know? Because he's
Yeah,
played 10
it's so weird.
games of the 25 games, and he hasn't been on the injury report. I think maybe outside of like 1 or 2 games, but it's like he's healthy and he's just not playing, and he's not
Yeah,
getting.
and let's compare Naismith to Sadiq Bey last
and
night.
you're gonna say
who had
absolutely
30 points,
Torched
11
him.
rebounds. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I
And-
wanted Sadiq Bey too. Like, I was interested in Sadiq Bey, and he
You
is
mentioned
Oh,
it.
yeah.
more of a complete NBA player. He's a bigger body. He has no hesitation. Maybe it's because he's on a shitty Detroit Pistons team, but still, like, why
That
would
shitty team has beat us twice out of 3 now. So you know,
I think they're like
The
4 out of
Pistons always beat us.
yeah, so something's definitely going on with Naismith, and I don't understand what it is, because it's either like the Brad Belichick thing with Stidham, where like he knows he messed up drafting Stidham, and he's just never going to admit it, and he's going to let Stidham's contract expire and then
But
let
he
him
was
walk.
a 4th round pick. This is a 1st round pick that we used.
14th overall, and what was it, 14, 27, and 30 or something like that? We all said package them up, trade up or trade out. We don't care what you do, but do not draft them because you won't play them. And guess what? He's not playing them. And I know we got lucky with Pritchard, but let's be realistic with Pritchard. He is going to be nothing more, if we make the playoffs, nothing more in the playoffs than a 10 to 15-minute guy that will fill a role and get Kemba back on the floor. That's all it's going to be. And I like Pritchard, and I think he's going to be a good NBA player. But Pritchard's flashes right now are kind of a little bit of luck. Last night they played pressure on ball defense and off ball defense, face guarding him, and he couldn't do anything. Now, again, it's not a slight at Pritchard, but Pritchard is not the savior. So I'm sorry. Naismith plays good defense. He closes out on everything, and he can create his own shots and shoot quickly off the dribble. Give him an opportunity. When we're down Kemba, down Marcus, we're playing a shitty Pistons team that we should be with the 4 of us on the court. That's when you play Naismith, because I'm sorry, these are kind of a scheduled loss for us, where it's like we're missing a couple of guys. We're on a back-to-back. For some reason, they have our number. That's when you experiment with Naismith. He gets 20 minutes, maybe even starts. I don't know. But your 2 most productive bench players right now have been Ojale and Pritchard, and you start them. Why? Let them stay in their goddamn role. For the love of God, let them stay in their role. I don't understand what Brad is doing.
Yeah, no one does. I don't think Brad even knows what he's doing, as you can see from his status behind Kyle.
I want to bring up something. So I was looking at Brad Stevens stats before just on my off time. So in 8 seasons with Brad, right, outside of that horrible 25 and 57 year where that was a rebuilding year. And so I don't really count that one. But he had 40 wins, then 48, then 53, then 55. So he was trending up 100%. Those are the IT days and Jay Crowder and all that. But since then, 49 wins, and then 48. That was only 72 games. And then this year, obviously 13 and 12. But it's like he kind of went up, and now he's kind of falling down. But the biggest thing that stands out to me: 37 and 36 playoff record. So not only is he not getting it done, he's average at best, I would say, in the playoffs. But it's like, I think he started off so hot, and he was, like I said, he was trending upwards, that we were kind of like, Brad's the savior, Brad's a genius, And now it's like we're starting to see the cracks or like the peek behind the curtain, where it's like, well, maybe Brad isn't all like everything he's choked up to be. And we've seen it before. When he has options, he doesn't know what to do. Why is Tremont Waters on this team? Why is Taco Fall on this team? Like, those are 2 slots where I know you got to have guys for injuries and backups and all that, but it's like, man, these guys are not playing. Why can't we get someone like we talked about, like a Kyle Korver, like a JJ Redick? Why can't we get someone to help this team who clearly has no shooting and no bench? Like, I don't understand injuries aside, this team with this roster should not be 13 and 12 at this point in the season. That's terrible. Now, sorry, real quick. The Celtics picked a good year to be 13-12 because if you look at the standings, almost all of the East, almost all the NBA is like 500, like I've said, with this outside of like the top 2 or 3 teams. But like watching that Jazz game, they had no business being in that game. The Jazz were clearly better than that team, and it should not be the case. Jazz are having a great year. I don't want to discredit that, but they're struggling to stay in these games. I mean, Vic, you talked about it. They were down 10 against the Pistons before that great stretch before the half, but I mean, the Pistons pulled away at the end. It's like, why are we struggling just to be in these games with these teams when we were supposed to be like an East favorite or at least like a top 3
up there? Yeah. So, Joe, I want to ask you this. Looking last year in the bubble, specifically in the playoffs, we had some lulls with the big 3 on the floor. But have you ever been 5-10 since Kemba came back concerned with the big three? Because I haven't. I kept saying Kemba's expendable, let Marcus start the one, trade Kemba for a big. I've been saying that, but I never thought that we were 5-10 bad with Kemba back. I know he's missed some of the games, so I'm not, but since he's been back, we're 5-10. So Joe, were you ever concerned with the big three kind of being our core?
No. And to just touch on that, trade Kemba.
That's my thought. So Luke,
John
I'm
Collins.
assuming, I know you were never this concerned with Kemba, Jalen, and Jason as the big three.
I was.
No,
I said
I've
that they'd
never
be
been this
anywhere from the
concerned
third
with
to the
Kemba.
seventh seed in the East. I started the year with that.
No,
They
I
didn't
know
do
that.
it all.
No, I'm talking about the big three. Were you ever this concerned about those three playing together?
Yes.
And-
We saw
Okay.
that last year. We saw last year when Hayward was off the court. This is
I
exactly
wasn't
what we
this
expected. Like
But
it's like
I think
not last year.
to Vic's point though, we weren't like losing as often as, like he said, it wasn't 5-10 bad. It was like
It's much
okay, off
messier
games.
this year.
Yeah, this
So,
is
all right. So Luke will be on the more pessimistic side of that. So my question is to you guys: if we're 5-10 bad, nothing like last year, and I agree with Luke, there was a lot of lulls last year that the big three were not working without Hayward on the floor. I agree with Luke, but it was not 5-10 bad. That big change from last year to this year is on who? Kyle, go ahead.
this guy right
On that guy. So, guys, are we officially at that point where Brad is on the hot seat? And we have to take a few things into effect. Kemba missed the first 10 games of the season. Marcus Smart's out, 4 weeks? Pritchard's been out for a couple weeks. Robert Williams missed the last couple games. We have had the injury bug. Does he get a little bit of slack, and how long is the slack for?
This is
He's not
his
on the
last
hot
season.
seat. He's on the heated seat, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that thing is on fire. He's on the fans' hot seat, I think, for sure. But is he on the Danny hot seat? I mean, and Danny should be on the hot seat too. in my opinion.
Exactly. This
Like,
is
is
the
he
point
gonna-
that we
like
go
Joe
over
says,
every other
Is he
week.
going to go
Like,
anywhere?
we as fans think Brad's on the hot seat. I personally believe, and they signed Brad. Upstairs, I don't think they think anything like that right now. I think they're like, yep, we're happy with what we have, and the fans are the fans. But I think we have a very different opinion on what's actually in the office.
And I do agree with Joe in a sense that we can't be cynics the whole time. I mean, we know Jason and Jalen are transcending into superstars or whatever the word is, they're becoming superstars. And that's a good sign. I mean, that you have to give some credit to Brad. No one expected them to be as good as they are. And now they are top 15, top 20 players, maybe top 50 in Luke's agenda. But we have to give a little bit of credit on that to Brad. So then I look at other things. When Wade, Bosch, and LeBron all came together, they lost their first year, and they were all 27, 28-year-old all-stars, superstars already. Curry and Clay took a few years, and then they added Iguodala and Livingston and whatever, and David Lee. So I try to give Brad a little bit of slack here, but I'm telling you right now that when Marcus and Kemba and Pritchard and Robert Williams, and they're all healthy and they're all playing together, there's going to be a 2 to 3 week stretch where if they don't figure it out, I will go down to Danny's house myself. He lives in Wayland. I will start knocking on his door because something needs to happen.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Even when everyone's healthy, you still see the rotation snafu that is Brad Stevens. Like, he just is so, and it's inconsistency. If Brad mentioned inconsistency in a quote, then he's clearly delusional because he is the epitome of inconsistency. Like, take injuries out. If we had everyone healthy, we're still going to see these weird lineups where we saw it earlier. Everyone was healthy. We played 12 players in the first quarter or first half of a game. I forget who it was against.
Sacramento.
Like, yeah, even Scal's like, I don't want to discredit Brad, but like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
that's never do that.
It doesn't make any sense what he's doing. So like, we need bench help because our bench is weak and our bench is young, and our bench can't shoot the players we play. Like, they're trying to
Danny
make
said
great.
he's looking for a shooter with size.
Yeah, but do you know how tough that is to negotiate? Like, those are premier players. Like, stretch forwards are premier players in the NBA.
But let's really look at it. And I sent you guys a depth chart, and I know my long messages probably get ignored most of the time, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But
100%.
Yeah, of course. If you were to start Kemba, Jalen, Tatum, Tice, and Thompson with the Twin Towers, so you get your big three with Twin Towers. So Twin Towers stay out of the way. They play defense, block shots, get rebounds. They stay out of the way. And, Thompson gets his offensive buckets, the rebound buckets, and then Tice will hit a corner three every now and then. But they stay out of the way. Now you have Marcus coming off the bench, who can average 15 a game off the bench, 15, 5, and 5 probably off the bench. You have Pritchard who can get his, Semi who's looking good, and then you have Robert Williams to play defense. And I look at it and I'm like, that's really not that bad. Then you mix in guys like Jeff Teague or Grant Williams, depending on the matchups. And I'm sorry, it really isn't as thin as we're looking at it. Brad is making us look worse.
Yeah, we're still thin.
I agree, but
just I want to speak based on size wise though. Like Teague is a 6'3" point guard, which is fine. Pritchard's I think 6'1". Williams is what 6'9", but he's lanky, right? So he looks bigger than he is, maybe 6'10". He stretches out. But Grant Williams is a 6'6" power forward. Like there's no denying that. He's a power forward. So we can't compete with size. I think we saw it specifically with Detroit last night. I think we even saw it with Sacramento. We were completely oversized against Sacramento and just the length that they had. And like Utah too. Like we could not, even in a small lineup, we couldn't D up Utah guards, which doesn't make any sense. Like, so we need length. We need clear rotations, like you said. I think that the most stressful thing, or the most frustrating thing, is when Kemba, Tatum, Jalen, Tice, and Tristan play, that lineup should work. But even when that lineup's on the floor, the offensive rotation is trash. Like you should be having Tatum on the point for one set, send Kemba off an off-ball screen, get him an open three. Okay, that's one possession.
I agree. So I want to, Kyle. So I'm a huge guy with fight fire with fire, right? So especially when you have this kind of conundrum of who's starting because of injuries and who's getting rotational minutes for whatever reason, I look at matchups. Donovan Mitchell is super athletic, cuts a lot. He really, really moves around very quickly. Who is someone like that who doesn't get consistent minutes, but who has shown some promise? Do you know who I'm hinting at? That could have matched up with Mitchell? Carson Edwards. So
to a lesser extent, yeah.
But listen, I'm not saying skill set. I'm not comparing skill set. I'm comparing speed, tenacity. Kemba cannot cover Mitchell. Pritchard isn't going to cover Mitchell. We don't have Marcus Smart. I'm not saying Edwards is necessarily going to slow him down, but he's at least going to match the speed, tenacity, and pace and energy. Why can't Brad see that? That's what I understand. Royce O'Neal, put Tice on him with Thompson covering Gobert, and now we don't cancel each other out, but at least we're in the fight.
Yeah, I think I got a tip for Brad Stevens here, so I want Brad to listen up. I think I got a little magic solution here. It's not going to fix everything, but something I've been kind of preaching the last couple games that in an era of positionless basketball that we're in, we always talk about Kemba is a shooting guard and he doesn't, do the alley-oops with Tice and Thompson. I agree. I think Vicky said that a while back, where it's for whatever reason, Kemba's not seeing what Marcus Smart sees, and Marcus Smart is a great playmaking point guard. And I want to also point out that I did undervalue Marcus Smart, and I apologize to Marcus Smart because when he went out, I was like, no big deal. It's going to be fine. I was wrong because he is very important to this team. But I think what we should do, because Jason Tatum's playmaking ability, I think, has gone up this season, really impressed me. I think he had 7 assists last night. Run Tatum at the point, maybe not all the time, but run Tatum more at the point. Turn Kemba into a shooting guard. I mean, look at Steph Curry, and they're not the same player, so I don't want to say Kemba is Steph Curry. But off the ball stuff, get Kemba open. If Kemba is more of a spot-up shooter, which he does anyway off the pick and roll, maybe you're getting him open. Maybe Tatum drives in, he kicks out to an open Kemba, and if Kemba's hitting the shots down, now you have suddenly a shooting guard that's producing instead of Kemba who's clogging up the offense. So I just think Tatum is a better playmaker, and I think Kemba, when he's on, he still needs to find a shot a little bit. He can be more of a spot-up shooter, which is what they've struggled with.
Yeah, it looks like they've been going to that rotation in the second half where Tatum has been bringing the ball up, running a high pick and roll, getting their switches and the matchups they want. But, man, it's just not working right now, and it's starting to scare me a little bit. Guys, we're 25 games into the season, so we're 11 games away from the halfway point. what is the record? So 11 more games. What is the record that says this is a complete demise of the season at 36 games? Under 500, a couple games over. If we're not, 20-16, are we concerned?
If we're under 500, we should be like even more concerned than I am right now. But we can barely win back-to-back games. Like, I don't know what we expect greater than a game or two over 500.
I agree. And I'm looking at the schedule, and right now we get the Wizards tomorrow.
Which
Denver,
could be a loss.
Okay, I'm going to take it from their talent level, not a pessimistic level. But, just looking at, like, Washington should be a win. The Nuggets, we're going to battle. It's going to be a tough one. We get the Hawks 3 times in a week. And I know the Hawks are not playing well. They're in the similar boat to us. They're playing under their talent level. But we should get at least 2 out of 3 against them. I'm sorry, Trae Young does not scare me. I know, Luke, I know you love the Hawks, but they're playing like shit too, and we have more talent. So
no, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No,
we
we
have
don't.
2 superstars. They have 1, and we have Kemba. They don't have Kemba. So
Capella's gonna eat us fucking alive.
Anyway, you're just negative. New Orleans is nothing. The Mavericks aren't playing very well either. The Pacers aren't playing very well. The Wizards, I'm sorry, guys. Until we see the Clippers, we should have a solid 750 stretch. We should be winning 3 out of 4 games for the next 8 games. If we don't, it better be over 500.
See, I don't understand how you can look at that schedule. And yeah, maybe I am just super pessimistic, but like looking at that schedule, that terrifies me. Even the Washington game, like the Pelicans game scares me. Like, we do not match up well with these teams, maybe besides Denver and Dallas, to be honest. Like,
we don't match up with Dallas at all. They have a 6'8" point guard, and they start 2 7-footers. That's when Brad's going to say, you know what? Let's just start Semi at the 4. We'll start Grant at the 5. Kemba will cover Doncic. We'll figure this out. We'll be fine. That's what Brad's going to do against Dallas.
Dallas has no interior offense either. That's why I said we match up well with them.
Well, Porzingis is averaging 30 a game, so he's doing okay. I know he shoots a lot outside,
he doesn't
but
play inside that much.
He shoots outside more. I know, but
okay, so we should be scared. Point is, we should be scared of this schedule, and you don't seem to be scared. I'm terrified.
Well, yeah, that's because we just played Philly twice, the Spurs, Lakers, Golden State, Sacramento, Clippers, Phoenix, Utah, Toronto. So yes, when I'm looking at the 11-14 Hawks, we play them 3 times. When I'm looking at the 6-17 Wizards, who we play twice, I feel a little bit better, but it still comes down to execution.
Detroit Pistons again.
I know that, but I'm just saying the next stretch of games gives us an opportunity to turn the season around going into the halfway point. So it's a turning point for us. Are we going to turn into the abyss, or are we going to find our groove?
Flop.
I think
so. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just saying, I think I'm somewhere between you guys. I agree with Luke in a sense where I think especially this year, any game in the NBA every night is like a toss-up. Like, unless you're like the Lakers, who apparently can never be stopped. But like, I just think, the Detroit thing is weird. I don't know how we've lost 2 games to them. They also beat the Nets. So like they have 7 wins and 3 of them are against the Celtics, whatever, despite the record, they're still the Celtics right now. So I don't know what Detroit's doing because I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for that, but I do agree. They had a really tough, that West Coast trip was brutal. Not only did they play a lot of really good teams, but obviously like the late starts. I know for us as fans, like I couldn't make through all those 10 p.m. games, honestly, because those games are ending at 1 a.m. But I think we're somewhere between, we're closer to, I think, what we saw against Toronto, where like we preached it all the time, right? Where it's like this team is at their best when they're locked down defensively, when they're playing with pace, when they're getting offense from defense. And it's like, when we see that, great. But we've gone into this half-court ISO offense so often where I don't understand what's happening, but we've touched on that already. I think we're somewhere closer to the Toronto game as opposed to like the Detroit game, but I'm not confident that we're like, my expectations for the season have changed. I think I picked the Celtics to win the title preseason, and now I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna get out of the first or second round, honestly.
Kyle, does this schedule scare you though? Washington, Denver, Atlanta, Dallas, Pelicans, Pacers. Do those teams scare you coming up in the next stretch before the All-Star break?
So you said it's 11 games, Vic, before the break?
Well, sorry, not the break, but it's the halfway point of the season. We're playing 72 games, we're 25 in. So 11 games gets us to 36 halfway through the season.
So this is not this 9-game stretch. Does it concern you? Washington, Denver, Atlanta, Pelicans, Dallas, Pacers.
I mean, every game is concerning me right now. I don't think it's. I don't want to say I'm not pushing the panic button because I feel like I got my finger on the button. I don't know if I'm quite pressing it yet, but
You're massaging it.
I want to, like Vic said, we're injured, so I don't want to forget that. I don't want to forget that we're missing Marcus Smart.
We have one.
They need
Rob
help.
Williams too, but
They need help. If they don't make a move and the trade deadline comes, I am going to be furious because I'm really worried that that's what's going to happen. Is that the green teamers, especially, like I've been guilty of that. We overvalue our players, and I really hope Danny doesn't do that. And we see reports that they're going to be aggressive, and that's like great, but this is like high and bloom fireworks all over again, dude. Where it's like, don't tell me that you're going to be aggressive. Be aggressive. Actions speak louder than words. I need you to do something because I swear to God, if we have the same roster, and we get the only thing that can save Brad Stevens. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a rant right now, but this picture is kind of pissing me off too because I'm tired of seeing this shit.
hurry up.
The only thing to me that can save Brad Stevens this year is if an NBA championship or at least an NBA Finals berth. If we go to the East, if we somehow get to the East Finals again and lose again, like Brad needs to go.
But at this point, Kyle, you have to lower your expectations, especially with Philly has finally figured it out. I mean, Simmons should win the Defensive Player of the Year, and Joel Embiid is having a phenomenal season. He's a top 5 player in the league. And then on the other end, whether you credit them now or not, the Nets are going to be very hard to beat in a 7-game series. So could we beat them? Yes. Could we beat them 4 times out of 7? I don't know. So let's just break down these last 4 games or the next upcoming 4 games and get your guys' opinion. So we have Washington, Denver, Atlanta. What's our record this week before we talk again next week?
I think we beat Washington, even though I do love Russ and Beal. And one of them might end up on our team. Hopefully when we play them, they just stay. Like Brad will say, hey, you know what? Come to our huddle this time. Like, don't go back on the plane. I think we beat Washington. Who's the next game? Sorry.
Denver and then Atlanta twice.
We're going to lose to Denver, and I think we split with Atlanta.
Okay, so 2-2 over the next 4 games. Joe, what are you thinking?
3-1.
Yeah, who's our loss? The Nuggets?
I say we split with the Hawks.
Okay. Lucas?
1-3. Only wins against Denver.
So same exact take as last week.
And then we lose against the Pelicans as well to make it 3 in a row.
All right. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, we're going to beat the Wizards by 20. When we play Denver, we're actually going to beat them by about 15 as well because it sparks that Jalen and Jamal Murray, that whole draft pick conversation thing.
Yeah, they did great about that with Donovan Mitchell against Utah too.
It's enough out of you. They're going to find it this week. I can feel it. And we're going to sweep the Hawks, guys. I'm telling you right now, we're going 4-0 this week, and we're going to beat the Hawks all 3 times. They are going to figure it out. You want to know why? Because I'm tagging Brad in this episode. I'm going to send a DVD copy to his house. I'm going to send it to the training staff. We're going to figure this thing out somehow. Brad, I'm available. $65 an hour consulting fee. That's it.
Yeah, Brad's not going to be able to figure out how to play it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'll tell you what, Vic, if we go 4-0 in this stretch, I'm going to change this picture to a happier Brad Stevens for sure.
Good luck finding that. He's got the monotone bill already. Well, boys, let's hope things turn around. Let me ask you guys this. Who is going to be the MVP of this week coming up for our team? 1-3, 0-4, 4-0, I don't care. Who's going to be the most valuable player of this week?
Semi.
Tice.
Oh, real quick, one thing we didn't mention, the really weird stat, Peyton Pritchard and Semi Ojeleye, the only Celtics teammates in history with 6 threes made each in a game. They're just they're just in their history books now. It's the weirdest combination I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
Kemba's gonna figure it out. It's finally gonna be Kemba. I'm tired of his shit.
Good luck with that.
I think it's going to be Jaylen Brown. I think he has mismatches in all 3 of these games. People aren't going to be able to cover him. Kevin Huerter isn't going to cover him. Westbrook's not going to stay in front of him. Whoever the Nuggets put him on him aren't going to stay in front of him. He's going to average 35 over the next 4 games. Jaylen Brown, baby, he's going to be popping off. Anyway, guys, I know I'm crazy. I'm losing my mind. I'm just so hopeful that they turn it around. This was Tommy Points, brought to you by Chasing Rings, the podcast. Kyle, Luke, Joe, Victor. Appreciate you guys. It is Valentine's Day weekend. Buy your girl something nice. Buy your guy something nice. We all appreciate it. Love you guys. Peace.